Thank you for listening to this podcast from TRE, Talk Radio Europe, your voice in Spain and around the world. For more information, please visit tre.radio.
Discuss, challenge, inform, comment, Viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe.
Giles Brown.
Live comment and discussion with studio guests. Viewpoint.
Good morning. It is Tuesday, the 21st of October. You're listening to Viewpoint, Talk Radio Europe's current affairs programme with a panel of invited guests discussing the events of the day. It's a shortened version this morning because of the tristes, the travails, the trabajo, the travail, the tristeces of living on the Costa del Sol. I could go and talk to you about infrastructure for the next hour and a half, or at least 55 minutes or so, because there were not one, not two, but three accidents on the main arterial road coming into Marbella today. There were queues going back to Calahonda, coming down as well the mountain. It gives you an opportunity to take in the beauty of nature, I think you'll find, when you're stuck in a traffic jam. And I'd like to do a special salute to whoever was driving the German-plated FU wagon, who decided to try and beat the traffic by going the wrong way down the Ochen, past Ochen, lights blaring. I didn't see what happened, but I heard an awful lot of beeping and an awful lot of, I think it might have been Arabic swearing, but I'm not quite sure. 952-78-4000 is the phone number. studio@tre.radio is the email. Live radio, you know. So let's have a look at what's making the front pages of the papers this morning, shall we? To get kicking off today. Interesting reading this morning. What does the palace know? And web giant glitch. Yes, indeed. One day it's the web, the next day it's the infrastructure. So, looking at your front pages this morning. Once again, papers focus on the scandal surrounding Prince Andrew. The Sun picks up on fresh allegations made by Virginia Defray in her posthumous memoir, Nobody's Girl. The paper says in the book she accuses the Prince's team of hiring internet trolls to tarnish her name after she made Andrew has always denied. What did the palace know? Asked the Daily Mirror on its front page. It says an allegation the prince asked a police protection officer to find out information about Miss Duffrey has sparked a new crisis. The palace tells the paper the accusations should be examined in the appropriate way. The Daily Mail asks how Prince Andrew can afford to stay in Royal Lodge, a mansion, 30 bedrooms, owned by the Crown Estate in Windsor. The Times says he's seen the leasehold agreement for the 30-room property and he's only paid a peppercorn rent each year since 2003. A former chair of the Public Accounts Committee tells the paper the Crown Estate is owned by us, and the onus is on those running it to maximise our income out of it. In its analysis, The Guardian says the optics are bad, a disgraced prince living in the luxury of a huge Crown Estate property. Daily Telegraph says Prince Andrew has deemed a political national security risk because of links to alleged Chinese spies. It says multiple sources have told the paper that concerns were raised by the security services as long ago as 2021. The article highlights what it calls the prince's repeated meetings with suspected spy Yang Tenbo. The prince has previously said nothing sensitive was ever discussed, and he's cut off ties after concerns were raised. Yang Tenbo denies spying. What a great name. The Eye paper devotes its front page to the development of a bionic chip that helps blind patients regain sight. It says there are hopes the technology could become available on the NHS. One patient can read again after taking part in the clinical trial. She tells the paper, reading takes you into another world. I am definitely more optimistic. So, those front pages, grim reading for Prince Andrew this morning. The Mirror, what did the palace know? Andrew scandal. The Daily Mail, just how can Andrew afford Royal Lodge? Meanwhile, The Times, Andrew has not paid rent since 2023. 2003. Meanwhile, The Guardian, Prince tried to hire trolls to target Defray. Book claims the Met worldwide wobble after web giants glitch. Something went wrong. Daily Telegraph, they read with a different story. They read with a grooming inquiry after two survivors quit a liaison panel on Monday. The paper says critics are accusing Labour of sabotage, with the Prime Minister urged to launch a new judge-led inquiry. A Home Office spokesman said it was committed to delivering a robust, thorough inquiry. The iPaper. Revolutionary chip helps blind patients to regain sight. Meanwhile, the Daily Express leads on an employment tribunal in which a group is challenging a health trust policy about female changing rooms at work. It says the women have been seen together for the first time. For the safety and dignity of every woman and girl. The Sun leads with a report that Katie Price's former husband, Kieran Hayler, has been charged with 3 counts of rape and 1 count of sexual assault against a 13-year-old girl. A legal representative for Hayler said yesterday he strongly denies the allegations made against him. And the Daily Star leads on an awful story. The death of Hayley Pearce, former England football player Stuart Pearce's son. The paper says the vehicle he was driving had a suspected tyre blowout. Stuart Pearce's son dies in tractor horror. And those are your headlines on this Tuesday, the 21st of October.
Viewpoint with
Giles Brown.
Always live, always lively. A special edition today. A quick stab at what's happening in current affairs. I'm joined on the line by Andres Gallardo. Good morning to you, Andres.
Good morning, Giles. What time do you call these, huh?
Well, yeah, thank you to Sam as well, who's come in and said to me, and I quote, here we go, he said, we want Giles. Giles is drinking a pina colada on the beach, making Dave work an extra time for having to sit in from yesterday. A pina colada?
If you like pina coladas.
Or something like that. Anyway, I thought I'd throw that one in as well. And I'm joined, and he gets a prize for waiting for me by Claudia Della Torre. Claudia, good morning to you.
Good morning, Giles. Good to see you.
In person as well. Infrastructure, Andres. Infrastructure is just falling apart, I tell you. It's just ridiculous this morning, isn't it, you know?
Well, let me tell you about infrastructure.
Come on then. As a high-flying property executive, tell me about infrastructure, Andres.
Last week, I got on the train, the famous high-speed train of Spain, that about 20 years ago was hailed as one of the best in the world, if not the best. Last week, I had an hour delay on the way to Barcelona and an hour delay on the way back. And I was thinking about infrastructure.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is when it's like if you buy a €3 million house, brand new, the first year you're going to enjoy a lovely garden, lovely pool, the kitchen is all perfect and everything. But if you don't maintain the house, in 10 years' time, the pool will be dirty, the kitchen won't be working, you'll be painting it again, and that beautiful house that you had once has become a real mess. But this is what's happening with the infrastructure in Spain right now.
Do you think people are
How about that for infrastructure?
Yeah, do you think people are just sort of sitting back and patting themselves on the back and saying, like, somos los mejores, because we had this happening 20 years ago, and therefore we don't need to do more work on it? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it is.
Indeed. Claudio, as somebody who works in the sector as well, is it not difficult to show people around and say this is we're living in a highly developed situation here. This is the new California of Europe, and then you take people around and they have to drive through building sites, and this summer, as we know, it was slightly challenging, wasn't it, to show people around and say this is a luxurious place to live if you can avoid the concrete mixers.
It's absolutely disgraceful, the state of the public infrastructures, especially the A7, the potholes. It's absolutely third world. You think they couldn't spend just a couple of thousand to cover the potholes, especially in the Estepona area. In Marbella, they made a bit of an effort to cover them, and on the other side of the Estepona. But between San Pedro and Estepona, it's a disgrace. But we have a very, very inefficient minister who's very busy tweeting all day and doesn't worry about infrastructure. And yet the high-speed trains, which used to be like the pride of Spain, now have terrible delays. So, yeah, it's shameful, and I think even the European Union should take note, because Spain has taken a lot of EU Next Generation funds, and I wonder where they're investing them, to be honest.
Ooh, that's an interesting. I think the EU actually. I think Spain gets a million euros every time they put a roundabout on a bit of straight road, because it seems to be every time. And if you are in the Marbella area, if you know opposite Victor's Beach, they put a roundabout there, and then put traffic lights outside it. You know, they've done the old pedestrian crossing bit right in front of it, so it's going to make it even more challenging. But enough of this stuff anyway. As well, says Rich Estepona, say no more. We were talking about local, national and international, if you want to get your viewpoint across.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
So, Richard's come piling in, as he always does. Hope you're paying them for the first hour, thank you. Time to get the scooter and not worry about the helmet hair. Yeah, the only hair I'm going to worry about is the helmet on my chest. Andres should come to England then and endure delays and £300 to Manchester. Potholes have nothing to do with the EU, Claudio. So there you go. Now, let's move swiftly on. Yeah, Claudio, you wanted to have a thing about there's yet more financial scale. We'll come on to Prince Andrew sort of in the second half, if you like, in about 10 minutes or so, but looking at give me a quick Spanish update with what's being recorded as yet another scandal. Finances, what's going on, Claudio?
Yeah, just going back to the potholes, it's got nothing directly to do with the EU, but how they're spending the EU funding that is supposed to better infrastructure has got to do with the EU, because they allocate those funds to improve infrastructure.
Fizzing down the backhand there, backhand down the line there from Claudio.
Yes, and regarding the new evidence that implies that the Socialist Party is being financed illegally, they're seeing a lot of cash movements that haven't been declared. And then Víctor Valdama, who is a businessman who used to collaborate with Socialist Party members, has already said also that they were giving cash. There was a lot of cash involved in the party. Every Friday they were giving money, cash in hand. So yes, there's already been several private prosecutions regarding the party, so things really are heating up, because this comes from over a year ago, since José Luis Ábalos, the former number 2 of the Socialist Party and Minister for Public Works, was investigated, and Santos Cerdán, also the number 3. So we're talking about the 3. Sánchez, Ábalos and Cerdán were the 3 top party leaders. We're talking about the top, Sanchez's closest associates. One of them is in prison, and one of them is under investigation, and the Supreme Court has let him be on conditional bail. So yes, the evidence is there. Things are really, really getting more difficult for Sánchez, and one can see physically also he's lost a lot of weight. He looks very consumed. I think he does definitely have a lot to worry about.
Andres, any thoughts on that one from Claudio?
Well, I mean, Claudio explained the situation very, very well. The thing is that this president came into power after they threw out the previous government with the Conservative government on the basis that there was loads of corruption surrounding the party and surrounding the government. Yes, that was proven to be true. They paid the price of some of the people going to jail and the ultimate price of losing power. They came into power promising that corruption would be something of the past. There was going to be clean politics, that was never going to happen again. And guess what? It's happened yet again. And they seem to be having a high moral ground, saying, let me just tell you, one thing that Sanchez has done very, very well is that he's encapsulated the corruption of the party and the government to two or three people who have been charged, saying there were bad apples, there's nothing to do with us. Now, that's very, very difficult to believe that when they were his closest associates, as Claudia just said. Now, the question is, did he know about it or not? The consensus of public opinion says that, of course, he knew about it. How could he not know about it? And basically, the whole point of them being there on, a brand new politics of clean politics and so on is now it's now not standing anymore because of all these corruption charges. The decent thing in this particular case would be to say, look, we've been caught. It's bad enough as it is. We need to call a general election and move forward, because at the moment we continue to be paralyzed. Not only we have a paralyzed parliament because of the different groups that they form the parliament, but on top of that we're paralyzed because all these corruption investigations are going on with the Guardia Civil involved, the courts involved, all the public opinion just, trying to know what's going on here, and the country continues to be paralyzed. So I think the decent thing here would be to say, look, enough is enough. Let's call a general election and try again to see if we can form a decent government that could, move the country forward.
Try and form a decent government. I mean, this is sort of, how can this possibly happen, Claudia? I mean, there's so much division. There's no quite unquote strong leader, and as we've said so many times on this program, I mean, both parties are having to deal with fringe parties, most notoriously Senor Sanchez. Claudia,
absolutely. And when I think of Sanchez and all his constant lies, one of my favorite quotes comes to mind from Abraham Lincoln is that you can fool all the people some of the time and some of the people all the time, but you cannot fool all the people all the time. And I think it's very true about Sanchez, because he has had a web of lies and propaganda. He's been a master at propaganda and manipulation, but now it's falling apart. Like, it worked for a while, but you cannot keep up all of that. It's very difficult to keep up all that web of lies and propaganda, especially when all this fresh evidence is coming in. And yes, it's going to be, and it's very serious, because he tried to pass a law in Parliament to gag judges and to try and paralyze all the court cases against him and his family, which means he wanted to ban private prosecutions, and in the hope that banning private prosecutions and only allowing public prosecutions, because of course in Spain, like the equivalent of the CPS, it's not like in the UK that's independent. The public prosecution service in Spain is under government control. Right. So if he had managed to pass a law abolishing private prosecutions, the only option would be a public prosecution, which he controls the prosecution office. So that means they would have had to bin the charges against all his associates. Yeah, it's very serious what's happening. And of course, as Andres well said, Sanchez, he arrived in power. The motion of no confidence to replace Rajoy, it was presented by José Luis Ábalos, who's famous for his love of call girls. The Guardia Civil intercepted his conversations.
Go back.
Sorry, yes. Of which, yes, he talked about women in a disgusting way, especially, and he actually had his lovers lovers, which were actually professional
lovers. I think we call them ladies of negotiable virtue, Claudia.
Exactly.
Yes, indeed.
Working in public companies, having public salaries, and not having gone to work one single day. So we're talking about a party that prides itself on feminism, defending women's rights, and yet in the last few years we've had several of their members, including the number 2 of the party, and also in Andalusia, spending public money on professional
ladies of negotiable virtue. Andres, and you're not in the studio, but Claudia's got very impassioned about this. Just to warn you.
It's exciting to see Claudio excited about anything. There is one point that is quite interesting, and is that Sanchez is not calling a general election among other reasons. One of them is that if I call a general election, the Conservatives will win with the support of what they call the extreme right, which is Vox. Yeah. So he's protecting us from the outcome of democracy. It seems bizarre. He said, I can't call a general election because the other people would win. Well, that's democracy. You call an election, people vote, and they show, who they want for government.
I mean, Richard's very...
It's a bit ridiculous to claim that he's protecting us from the extreme right, but this is what people want to vote.
Yeah,
let them vote.
Richard has very kindly sent me in a poll. I'm not actually sure where it's come from, but it does show the Partido Popular, although not as high as it has been. They had a rating back in May, hovering around 35. They had a rating back in mid-February 2024 of getting up to, I'd say, that 36, 37. They seem to be hovering around the 30% mark, but on a downward trend. PSOE are going upwards, having been at a low in the beginning of August of around about 25. They seem to be hovering at the 29% mark. The real gain, it's interesting, is Vox, because they've gone from literally August 2024 of being around 10%. They are now, I would say, that's about 18%. So combined with that, I mean, Vox, who have got this far-right policy and are very populist. Claudio, you're looking at me intently. Come on, off you go.
Just the word polls makes me sick these days, because I just think it's after Trump's last victory that they said it was the closest election in history. It would be nail-bitingly close, and all this codswallop. I just don't believe a lot of the polls, and also the last poll in Spain that said that the centre right, all the polling said that they were going to win a majority, yet Sanchez swung. So I just think you really have to take these polls with a pinch of salt. Even going back to Brexit, even Hillary Clinton's defeat in 2016, which was or many newspapers had already printed her face on the front saying that declaring her the winner. So I just think one really needs to be very, very skeptical about the polling industry in this day and age.
Just want to go to some of the WhatsApps coming in if you want to get involved.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Now, Richard sent me in a whole load of stuff, so thank you, Richard. A master of propaganda, and the PP are not. Yesterday, we heard the shenanigans of the Partido Popular again in the Gürtel case. Blimey, it was Halloween coming. That's rising from the dead. He doesn't need to call one at an election, not a lady of disposable virtue. He doesn't need to call one. He has until Sunday, the 22nd of August, 2027. It was a close thing, Claudio, a 0.7% swing. And just here we go. it's the local councils that control potholes on roads, unless it's on a motorway. And the best thing to do would be to relay the tarmac from scratch, and they don't do that until election time. Right, we've done the potholes now. Let's get back to from potholes to politics in one leap over the aforementioned hole in the ground. Yes, you can.
Can I just take you away from the potholes for a second?
Okay.
There is one point that has been made by Richard, I think it was, to say, yeah, he's right. Until 2027, he doesn't have to call an election. Of course he doesn't have to. But the reality in the ground is that he needs an election because the country is paralyzed. That's why he needs to call an election. He doesn't have to, and probably won't, but he should. Morally, he should. And that's, of course, my opinion. The second point that I wanted to make is in relation to the growth of Vox. Vox is having the biggest growth. That was published yesterday in one of the polls that Claudio doesn't believe, but it's very indicative of which way we're going, is the biggest growth in Vox voters are the people aged 18 to 25, which means the younger people who are the most disenchanted with the situation because of the cost of living, because of the cost of housing, because of lower wages and everything else, are the ones who are saying, we want change, we want big change, we want a big shake-up. Whether Vox can produce that, I doubt it, but they believe that. So you have a big growth in young people moving towards the politics of Vox. And that's going to have a big impact in the next election, and whenever that is, whether it is now that it should be or in 27, as the rules are set out. Vox is going to have a very important impact on what happens next. A little bit like it's going to be the same in France with Le Pen and in the UK with Reform. So society is moving towards wanting change, big shake-up of the situation, especially from young people. And that's the way we're moving. So unless things improve dramatically between now and whenever the election is called, there is going to be a big change in governments across Europe.
But here's the thing. I mean, people, we're getting about polls and whatever, and Richard says Sanchez will wait for the opinion polling to swing back, the PP to lose stream. A week is a long time in politics, thank you. But as we saw with Abridged, the thing is that what people say they're going to do to a pollster and what they actually do in reality are two entirely different things.
Yeah, you're right. I'm laughing at these because last week, talking to my sister, she said, I had a call from one of the polls, and I said, what did you say? He said, I lied.
Exactly, I'm going to vote for the monster.
I wonder how many people like my sister lied to when they get a call from a polling company.
And so as the saying goes, if you want to make a difference, you have to stay in power. Sanchez likes being in power.
He is absolutely addicted to power. He's a power junkie. Let's not forget that in 2023, Sanchez called a snap general election in July. That was the first time in history that an election was called in summer, when he still had one whole year for an election. And why did he do it? Because he knew that at that moment it was favorable to him, and he tried to swing it, and it worked. He took a risk, he took a gamble, and it worked. Let's not forget that he's lied about everything. He said that the amnesty was unconstitutional, and then when he needed the votes of Puigdemont in 2023, he suddenly changed his mind and said that it was necessary for Spanish democracy. He said that he'd never pact with Bildu, the Basque pro-ETA group. Let's not forget.
Well, they were formed somewhat like Sinn Féin the
leader of Bildu is Arnaldo Otegi, a convicted kidnapper, and in the 23 local elections, Bildu presented convicted terrorists in the Basque country, and then there was a huge uproar, and they had to take them away, but they still don't connect. So Sanchez always says one thing and he does the other. He's a political fraudster. Even Felipe González, the former socialist president, said that Sanchez is the president who has most betrayed the party, and there's many traditional socialists who are absolutely appalled, including the ex-presidents of Andalusia, Susana Díaz, Baje, but of course they don't dare to talk too much because Sanchez, what he does, he has purged all critics from the party. He has the Aragon president who died sadly from cancer. It was awful. He said that he was a traitor and everything, and then when he died, he pretended to be so sad and that he was a great leader. It just goes to show what a sinister character he is.
And we're going live to the lines. Morning, caller, you're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Hi, Giles. Felix here.
Good morning, Felix.
This is bad news all around that I'm hearing on your program this morning because there is a very big denial movement of both the virus and especially global warming taking place in Europe and in Britain, and now, from what you tell me, with its vox in Spain. And this is particularly critical because yesterday I got news on articles in the media that the Eurasian curlew is now extinct. This is a bird that was common in Ireland when I was growing up, and I would have heard it often. So that is very, very bad news happening in Spain around this Vox movement. Thanks very much. Bye.
Thanks for your call in there, Felix. Going to take a quick break and they're back with some more Viewpoint.
Viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe with Giles Brown.
And it's, if you want to get involved, it can be local, national or international in this shortened version of Viewpoint. If you want to say hello.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Paul's come in from, quote-unquote, the People's Republic of Manilva, Bibache, and he says, Dear Giles, great show as always. If you talk to ordinary people in the street, everyone knows that all that Sanchez and his cronies are interested in is lining their own pockets. Excuse me. And everyone knows the Spanish economy is not doing well, in spite of the figures that are trotted out. Unemployment in young people in Andalusia is very, very high, and the only reason that Spain can't pay the 5% to NATO is because there's no money. Meanwhile, looking at some other bits and pieces coming in, excuse me, aren't all leaders power hungry? A rather asinine comment. The whole point of the first-term governments is to stay in power for a second term, and Sanchez wants to win in his own right rather than being the best of the rest, which is what he has now. Sanchez is not the worst PSOE leader ever. Wasn't he from Extremadura, not Aragon? Confirmed. Everyone knows they do. Well, they may do indeed. Andres.
Yes. The comment from the Republic of Manilva.
The People's Republic of Manilva, thank you. The People's Republic of Manilva.
He's spot on.
Right.
He couldn't be better explained, you know. It is true. I mean, the macro figures of the economy, they seem to be very good. But if you talk to people in the street, they're all going to say the same thing. Wages are low. The money doesn't reach as far. Taxes are far too high, and they'll be higher if this government continues to be in place. Infrastructures are failing massively. The health system, although it's not as bad as other countries, not naming any, but it's not good. The housing situation for young people is atrocious. So the reality of the day-to-day life in Spain is not the reality of the macro figures of the economy. There is no way around it. So, the way he what Sab was explained was very good. The thing about the 5% to NATO, there are two things. The first thing is, the comment is right. There's no money to put 5% on it. It's just ridiculous amount of money to put onto defense. We haven't got it, and that's the second thing is that nobody has questioned in what are we going to spend that money on. It's because you could spend 5% on tanks. We might not need tanks, so we need to first to know what's needed to be safe and secure in terms of defense, and secondly, to see how much that costs. Because it's not good to say we're going to throw 5% of the GDP onto something if we don't know how we're going to spend it. It's got to be the other way around. This is what's needed, this is what costs, this is, and it might not be 5% what is needed. Because if you look at the pound value or the euro value of 5%, it's a ridiculous amount of money. We cannot afford that. Having services, they need more urgent attention than defense.
More urgent? Do we need more urgent than defence? But surely a European-wide defence, Claudio, would be in everybody's benefit.
Well, it all depends if we enter war with Russia or not, which many European leaders are telling us we have to prepare for. Look at Merz in Germany and Macron, even they're making real... So depending on how things escalate, we'll have no choice but to spend more. So we'll see how that goes. But it is true that the problem with the standard of living, housing, low inflation, it's everywhere in Europe. That's all you hear in the UK, the same crumbling NHS, cost of living. Wherever, in all countries, you hear the same thing. There's not one country that people say, oh yeah, everything's going great. We've got low cost of living. You can buy a house easily. The health service works. That doesn't exist. It's everywhere. And that's why the traditional ruling parties are plummeting in all of Europe, because people feel that they've failed them. Same as Labour is going down, the Conservatives are going down in Italy, the traditional left, the traditional right. It's people are sick and tired, and they feel that they are not being listened to. And also, again, the immigration is a common complaint in all of Europe. And as I say, if people have legitimate concerns, one shouldn't shut them down. They should be heard, of course, but something needs to be done. I think people feel that they're not being listened to, that whatever they do, whatever party they vote, then they just do what they want. So I say bring on the referendums. For every important case, I think people should be able to have a say.
They'll be calling things Boaty McBoatface before the week's out. Bring on the referendums are an appalling way to make a policy. Andreas?
I don't agree with the referendums because they're too...
they're too black and white, as Vox would say.
No, not really. It's how you feel at the moment. Things have to be planned better. You have to have a master plan to develop the country in all aspects. Just to it takes me to the immigration situation. A lot of the far right parties are blaming all the problems onto one simple question, which is the immigration. So if you finish immigration, the country will flourish. That's not true. That's not going to be, and Britain is the most clear example that that's not true. When they came out of the European Union saying that, all these immigrants have to go, because that's generated more immigration and more chaos in the country. So, yes, it is a problem that has to be looked at and has to be managed correctly. But that's not the only problem we have. We have many others. And the government and governments have to have a plan for all of the aspects, not just for one.
Of course, there's many other subjects, but it is clear across Europe that it is it's a big concern in many countries. And of course, we're not saying that it needs to be regulated, it needs to be legal. So I think if it is a concern, and other centre-left parties in Europe have realised that it's even a concern within their voters. Like in Denmark, they're reducing immigration. Even in Britain, Keir Starmer has saying, well, they're going to have to speak English up to A-level standard. They're going to have to wait longer before they get nationality. So even the centre-left parties, I think they are realising that their working-class voters have legitimate concerns about immigration, as they do about other things like cost of living, etc.
A-level standard in the UK. I mean, a lot of British people can't speak, in it like A-level standard in
that's
in
what
the
there
UK.
are. That's what
you'll be sending most of certain areas back.
But look, Claudio, you've got the primary sector in Spain is, I would say, 90% of the work of immigrants. Because nobody wants to pick up fruit and grain and all of the industry surrounding agriculture is based on immigrants doing the work. You just can't say, all immigrants out, everyone deported. There is a
absolutely
need.
Not. No, I think the vast majority of people don't agree with that. There might be a small amount of extremists that say that. And look at, for example, Meloni. Meloni, she's always been anti-legal immigration, but she has said lately we do need immigrants to work. So they have approved, I think it was 500,000 work permits for workers to come because they're necessary. Of course, we need legal immigration that comes and works, that contributes to society, that pays their taxes. That's absolutely necessary. And I think the vast majority of people agree that those people are welcome. What is a problem is a minority of immigrants that come, unfortunately, and do cause trouble. It's seen in the media very often. You see it on social media. You see it on stories. So it is there. It is a problem that exists, and I think that's what people want. They want zero tolerance on people that come and commit crime, and they want deportations of people that come and don't accept and don't follow the law. It's a minority, but it's there. And for example, you see in many cities, for example, in Barcelona, the pickpockets. Unfortunately, they're mostly foreign. In the UK, the gangs that come from Albania, the gangs that are in London, phone snatching, etc. It's that type of immigration that I think needs to be combated, and of course, immigration that's legal. And we can't have unvetted people arriving on boats without knowing their criminal status.
That's a tiny proportion of the actually immigration numbers, Claudia.
It is, but it's what people see
on social media, and you can't believe everything you see on social media, my friends.
It's happening. We have to say, I do understand people in the UK are concerned with the small boat crisis, that they are people that are arriving without vetting and without knowing their criminal background. It's a small minority, but they're there, and unfortunately there have been some heinous crimes committed by those people which shouldn't be in the UK in the first place.
And there are heinous crimes committed by members of the British government with the PPE scandals.
Absolutely, but those people are British citizens.
Makes a difference.
And they're there, and you can't deport them, and you can't stop them from being there. But the ones who come illegally, they should be stopped from coming, like it was done in Australia. That the centre-left government in Australia also had a zero tolerance policy with the boats coming from Indonesia, because they said, okay, we do have a point-based system, we do need legal immigration, and they are valuable people, and they are welcome, and we want them there. But unfortunately, if you come illegally without knowing your criminal status, it's going to be a problem.
Right then. Just quickly, Julie says, you guys are so lucky to have a Prime Minister like Sanchez. Wish we had somebody like him running the UK. Could there be a bigger picture here? Something is going on all over Europe and England. This is from Sam. Maybe part of some big drive towards the UN and the World Economic Forum by 2030, and that is why all these things are happening everywhere. Or Claudia needs to stop reading Facebook and X. Never ask the public what they want. The risk is they might tell you. Andreas?
Yeah, I mean, I find there is quite an easy solution to these. It is obvious that we need the workforce to work, especially the primary sector in Spain. There is a scheme in Andalusia, in the area where they collect strawberries, where these people come into work when they are needed with contracts that they get in their country of origin, and then they come in with their contract, they work. Some stay because they go into other contracts in different areas, and that's quite well managed. Why don't we extrapolate that to the whole of the country and say, okay, you can come in with a contract from country of origin, and you're welcome to come in and work here and everything else. And if it goes well for you, you can stay. If your contract is finished and there's no more work, you return to your country. Something like that. I mean, there is solutions. What we cannot do is just let everyone in and not do anything about it, especially when they're minors and they don't receive any education, they don't receive anything. They're just left to wander the streets. I'm not saying that they are going to go into crime, but in some cases they do. Not the majority at all, but, that frustrates people to have just people wandering the streets with no aim. The idea would be that they come into the country with contracts to do a job, and then when that job's finished, they go back. And if they can find further work, they can stay here longer. And after a period of time, whether it's 3 years or 5 years or whatever is established, then they can have a resident permit. That would be a managed immigration policy that no government seems to be able to put in place. And create frustration in the rest of the population because they don't see that being managed and causing a problem. Because one of the problems which we talked about is housing. With the amount of immigration that we are receiving at the moment, there is not enough supply of certain kinds of accommodation. And that is what's causing, people to gain access, local people to gain access to housing.
Claudia, final thoughts?
I absolutely agree with Andres. We need a balanced system where people who come and work and contribute are welcome, and we need those people. They help run the country. They help run the economy. I'm all for immigration as long as it's legal and controlled. But however, we must prevent illegal immigration because all it's doing, it's causing people to feel upset. It's causing resentment. I don't agree. I understand that people in the UK, when they see people staying in hotels funded by the taxpayer, do get upset. I do, and I don't think those people, they're far right at all. They just want law and order. Yeah.
And we're almost out of time. Final thoughts. Will Spain be asking for A-level Spanish or equivalent from British expats? Just a thought. My thanks to Claudia.
Thank you very much, Giles.
And, of course, Andres Gallardo.
Oh, thank you very much, Giles. Make sure you're on time next week.
Yeah, or infrastructure and potholes. This programme will be repeated. I think we're going to give more coffee to Claudio. I'll be back tomorrow. Stephen Ritson is up next.
You've been listening to a TRE production. If you've enjoyed this programme, there'll be another episode waiting for you next week, right here on this platform, where you can also access our extensive back catalogue of shows and interviews. For more information on our live programming, social media channels and apps, and how to contact Talk Radio Europe, please visit tre.radio.